And that's your tip number one. You've got to seek after Jesus to receive his cleansing that he did on the cross for you. You can't get it anywhere else. You can't get it from money. You can't get it from women. You can't get it from men. You can't get it from your degree, your job. You can't get it from social media. None of that is going to cleanse you of what you're fighting with, whether it be physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Jesus got on the cross for that. He felt all the weight of the world for you and our uncleanliness. You've got to humble yourself and seek after him. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want you to ask yourself, do you feel horrible for maybe past decisions, maybe your image, maybe you're assuming God looks at you a certain way because of certain things you've done or said in the past? I want you to think about that and really listen to this episode, because in the book of Matthew, where we're going to hang out at, first book of the New Testament, you know, this is where Jesus is starting to do a lot of his miracles, etc. And in Matthew 8, there's a specific experience that happens between Jesus and a guy that has leprosy. So I want you to remember that question. Think about it. Maybe engage, comment in the chat, or comment like in the comments if you're willing to share, you know, what it is that you felt like was causing you to feel or look like God didn't accept you for the past things that you've done. I'm going to read this verse. So Matthew 8 says, large crowds followed Jesus as he came down the mountainside. Suddenly a man with leprosy approached him and knelt before him. Lord, the man said, if you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean. Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said, be healed. And instantly the leprosy disappeared. And Jesus said to him, don't tell anyone about this. Instead, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. So that's where we're going to hang out today. So let's go ahead and get started. Make sure I got you clipped in right. So today's a 2-hour zone 2. I'm officially in base training, which pretty much means boring old zone 2 all the time in endurance. So not a lot of like fast stuff. Just chill. Zone 2. So it's kind of cold out here too. I recently put some chain lube on, so that makes my bike feel a lot better when I'm switching gears. So yeah, Matthew 8. So I want to give you guys a little bit of backstory first, and then I'm going to give you like 3 tips on how to navigate through this, and maybe you're second guessing how Jesus looks at you because of what you've done in the past. And no one deserves to feel like, nobody deserves to feel like Jesus doesn't love them because of, you know, what their outward appearance looks like, or the choices they've made, or to be correct the sin that they've committed. So, what's the backstory? So Matthew is the first book of the New Testament. This is where Jesus is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the first 4 books of the New Testament. And this is kind of like the personal accounts of Jesus. This is where, he breaks the bread, walks on water, calms the seas, all the stories that we all hear. And Jesus does something great here as I've been reading this and pondering on, what's important for people to see here. And the backstory is this main disease, leprosy. The Greek word derives from leprosy, and it means like skin disease. And in the Old Testament, this skin disease was prevalent, and there were 2 types that you could get: contagious or not contagious. And if you thought you had leprosy or you actually got it, you had to report that to a priest or the priest of wherever you're at. And if you are confirmed that you have leprosy, you had to go to a community where other people had leprosy, and 2 things would happen. When you were in that community with a bunch of people that literally, everybody that has leprosy is in this one community, and you either got better or you died. And they would banish you from your original city to go to these communities where there's a bunch of other people that had leprosy, and you would literally either get better or rot and die there, which is horrible. Obviously, this is very, very old times. I don't know what the medicine was like back then, etc. But if I were to assume or imagine, I'm no Bible scholar, a lot of people probably died. So you can already kind of put 2 and 2 together. It's like, oh my gosh, I have leprosy. I'm banned from the community. You feel ugly. You feel sick. You feel just like a complete disgrace to society. And on top of that, they literally kick you out. Obviously to control, the leprosy being spread, but nobody wants to get kicked out of their hometown. So, and going deeper, let's say you thought you got healed from your leprosy. You had to go to a priest. This is in Leviticus 4. It's a really, really, really long, specific law of Moses that is written in Leviticus that you have to do to be claimed cured of leprosy, to be able to be integrated back into your community. So, well, what the heck? How does that communicate to today's age? I mean, I don't know what the statistics are on how often leprosy is diagnosed in the 21st century, but it was common back then. So that's kind of the backstory. If you had leprosy, you were getting kicked out. If you claimed leprosy was gone, you had to go through this, I don't know what to call it. You had to go through these chain of events and sacrifices and things of that nature with animals and stuff like that to show that you were clean. Like if you were marked with leprosy, you were labeled unclean to society back then, which is horrible. So let's communicate that to the 21st century, today, right now, you and me. Let's talk about a word called sin. Sin is separation from God. Sin is, certain things that God tells us not to do that we do. And there has been sin since Adam and Eve, since she disobeyed God by eating the apple, caused Adam to eat it, and then the chain of events happened, and idolatry came about, worshiping other gods, idling money, statues, a bunch of stuff that is labeled sin in the Bible. It's been going on for years. God wants us to have access to Him in heaven. So in order to do that, we have to have faith in His Son Jesus, who died on the cross for all humanity's sin, which is the gateway between us imperfect, natural-born sinners. Jesus got on the cross to die for that, to allow God to see us, see that His Son is built into us, and that His Son was the ultimate sacrifice, to have faith in that, to faith and believe in that with all our heart, to have access to heaven. It's not a matter of how much you do or what you do. It's about your heart. And that's what God looks at. He doesn't look at how many miles you ride on your bike, whatever. He looks at your heart. So, sin is uncleanliness in our relationship with God. It separates us from what He wants in our life and what we desire in our lives in real time. So, I want you to think about this. Number one, as we're natural-born sinners, we have to be cleansed. There has to be a cleansing to make us clean again. And that cleansing is the cross. So, similar to the guy with leprosy, he was unclean, socially and, obviously physically. Leprosy is a skin condition. He got banished from his community, and who knows what kind of journey he was on, but it makes me think, how did he come in contact with Jesus when he's supposed to be in this camp? That kind of makes me curious. Where were they at when this interaction happened? I mean, I'm getting stronger for sure. So he was unclean, very unclean. And he saw him and he begged them to heal him of his leprosy. Jesus said, I am willing, be healed. So that's a foreshadowing to Jesus dying on the cross for our uncleanliness with the sin that we all commit up until the day we die. And it's not a matter of, oh my gosh, if you sin, we're going to banish you from the community. But a lot of people think like that. They have so much guilt, maybe potential church hurt, that makes them identify themselves with their sin and not identify themselves with the person who sacrificed his life to remove that from us. So that's kind of the parallel. The guy is unclean, banished from community. He needs to get healed. And otherwise, he's just going to be in this camp, in this community, and either hopefully get well or die. And those odds they probably weren't going to be in his favor. And then to now, us being natural-born sinners, unclean through sin that we commit every day, nobody's special, we need somebody to clean us. I do, you do, everybody does. And enters Jesus into the chat. So, here's tip number 1. If you look at how this man interacted with Jesus, Jesus didn't find him. This guy found Jesus. This guy spoke first and said, hey, I need to be healed. Like, are you willing to heal me? So there's your tip number 1. You have to recognize that you are not perfect and that you need Jesus to cleanse you of whatever it is that is making you feel like you're unworthy or you're ugly or you're not smart. You need him to cleanse you of the sin that we naturally are going to do as humans. The guy humbled himself and sought after Jesus. He knew where to go because all the other miracles Jesus was doing, the guy was like, I need to get in front of this guy and chat with him. And that's your tip number 1. You've got to seek after Jesus to receive his cleansing that he did on the cross for you. You can't get it anywhere else. You can't get it from money. You can't get it from women. You can't get it from men. You can't get it from your degree, your job. You can't get it from social media. None of that is going to cleanse you of what you're fighting with, whether it be physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Jesus got on the cross for that. He felt all the weight of the world for you and our uncleanliness. You've got to humble yourself and seek after him. And you got to let him know, like, yo, I've got leprosy. Oh. Like, yo, I've got leprosy. In the Bible context, I've got leprosy. I need your help. Fast forward today's age. Hey God, I'm fighting this thing. I cannot beat it. I can't beat this thing that is crippling me. I can't beat this thing that's causing me to sin. I can't get past it. I want you to realize, friend, Jesus already won. He already died for it. You just have to go ask him. That's it. You've got to humble yourself and ask him for help. Number 2 is, your second tip is once you receive this healing, Jesus doesn't want this public announcement. Jesus isn't expecting this glorification like, aha, I healed you, now I expect X, Y, and Z. That's not how he is. In Luke 17, there's another instance of 10 men having leprosy. They all approach him with faith and knowing that he can heal. Jesus says, all right, bet. All you guys are healed. Go to the priest, practice the law of Moses to confirm that you're, healed of leprosy. And get back into the community. Out of those 10 guys, one person comes back to give thanks to Jesus. One person. And Jesus asks, yo, where's everybody else? And the guy went back to him to give him thanks and practice gratitude. So that's your second tip. When you humble yourself, connect with God, and receive the cleansing he's already done for you, not that he's expecting it, but you've got to give him thanks. You've got to give him grace and gratitude that, man, what friend do you have that would die for you for certain things you've done or said? Like literally. You got to give him thanks. That thanks will foster relationship, reverence, curiosity for Jesus. You'll start to foster that relationship with him. You'll start to foster relationship. You'll start to plant small seeds with him. And it's Jesus that'll water those plants for you and allow you to start creating fruit that you never thought you'd be able to create, because you were identifying with the things you've done or said. And then you've convinced yourself that you're not worthy of saving or salvation or restoration. But newsflash, friend, you already are. You already are. Whether you like it or not. Someone loved you enough to do that for you. So that's your second tip. You got to give him thanks. You're not bigger than the man who rescued you from eternal death. Nobody is. Your third tip is realizing that you can't do this by yourself. I mentioned earlier that social media is not going to heal you. Women, men, your job promotion, none of it's going to heal you. It might temporarily satisfy you, but that thing that you've been wrestling with is going to creep back up. It's going to seep its way back in. You've got to submit yourself. You've got to realize that He's bigger than your problems. The problems you have today and the problems you're going to have tomorrow. Jesus is bigger than them. You can't do it alone. He didn't get on the cross for no reason. You've got to submit. You've got to get on your knee and say, God, I can't do this. I can't do this. My way hasn't been working. I'm either going to die in this community or after a very, 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 very long time, get better. You've got to recognize that certain things just can't get fixed with human intellect or strength. You can't go through certain things and come out on the other end good and it not be from the grace of God. Miracles happen. So, if that spoke to you, provided you some value as a believer or someone trying to learn a little bit more about God and Jesus, go ahead and comment something that helped you out. Maybe a testimony of some sort. Like this video. It helps get to people that need to hear it. There's a lot of people out here hurting and need a little bit of Jesus. Me included. So, if you want to continue to hear more, feel free to subscribe. Send this to a friend who needs it. I look forward to chatting with y'all in the next video. Peace.